Just a quick look here. We're going to take a look at how preclinical candidates can take the philosophy of education they wrote in a previous course and kind of pare that down to be a more concise statement that they can use for preclinical and clinical experiences, as well as on their resume or any other materials they might need for interviews. So we're going to start the entire process by working within the Google Suite. You'll need to have your philosophy of education saved on your Google Drive somewhere as a Google Doc. If you have it as a Word document, you'll need to move it to your drive and then make sure that you open it up as a Google document, or you at least convert it to a Google Doc. When you have your philosophy of education in a Drive folder somewhere, it should have this icon and not the W that you just see associated with Word. It's important that you're working within the Google suite of tools when you use this particular tool that we're going to look at, and that's called the Highlight tool. You can get this as a free add-on for Google Docs. It shows you that here when you search for the tool in the marketplace, but it's a simple install, literally one click. The thing that I would point out is you need to be working within the Chrome browser. So just like you took your Word document and made it into a Google Doc, you can't be using another browser like Firefox or Safari. Make sure that you're in the Chrome browser for all of this stuff to kind of play nice together. From there, it's the one button install. It'll probably ask you for your permissions. You'll, of course, want to read through all these materials in great detail and make sure that you're perfectly well aware of what you're consenting to. I haven't experienced any issues myself, but you need to be accountable for the clicks that you're going to take. It does say that when we install this add-on, Highlight Tool is going to be able to view and manage your Google documents and then run third-party web content and prompts. So there's a somewhat of a cost to using that, although it's not necessarily monetary. You're turning over a little bit of your data to the people that are using these tools. It's an important consideration for you to make. I'm going to elect to allow, just so that I could use this tool and kind of continue showing you. Once you're done going through the prompts, the Highlight Tool verification will pop up here. It tells you where to go to find your tool. I'm going to cover that in kind of the next steps as well, but you'll just click done, and now you can see the blue button that had been here for us to install is gone, and it says uninstall. So you can remove and add permissions and put these back and forth in your own Google Drive and use them however you'd like. I have my philosophy of ed right here, and I just installed the tool that I want to use to kind of try to work with this. So I need to go and open up my document. Now I've done some pre-work here. I've got some different colored text that I'm going to use for shortcuts. But once we have installed that Google tool, that add-on, we want to go back and refresh this document just to make sure that everything is in sync. And once we do the refresh and it finishes loading in here, we're going to be able to go into this add-ons menu, which is up at the top of every document. And it's from the add-ons that we're going to locate and access that highlighting tool. So it looks like we're ready to go. I can go into add-ons. Not quite ready. Give it another second. When I go to add-ons, hopefully the highlight tool will show up as an add-on that's available. I might be able to also search from the Get add-ons from a blank document if I wanted to look for the highlight tool. I just did a quick Google search to find highlight tool and then was able to install. But once everything is kind of reloaded, and it might take a couple seconds here and there, you'll go to the highlight tool add-on and then you'll want to click Start. And what this is going to do is it's going to open up that tool we just installed, and it's going to give us a column on the right. And this is where you can build highlighter libraries and you can load highlighter libraries. I've used this tool in the past, so I already have a highlighter library built, but if I want to, I can go in here and add multiple highlighters. So for example, I have one that I'm using for preclinical courses that deals with the Ohio standards for the teaching profession, but I've got another one for my FYS section which dealt with analyzing hip hop lyrics, and we were doing some color coding based on what lyrics said. So I can store multiple sets of highlights in here and use this tool for different purposes. The thing that you'll have to do though, the first time you use it is actually build your library. Now, I already have a preclinical one built with the standards, but if I wanted to build a different one, I could click New Set. It's going to pop up down below. I can give it a custom name. Brew Set is good. And then from there, if I use the down, you can see I've got by default one label, and it's not anything that I've wanted to name it. So if I want to start labeling things in my set, let's say I'm going to label related to playing my DraftKings, and I want one to be DFS and NBA because that's one sport I play. Then what I can do is add another code. I can change the color over here and select it on the spectrum, maybe a little lighter or a little darker. And another DFS I play a lot is PGA. So I can build out any kind of custom coding set that you might have a need for when you're going through Google Docs by using this tool. Last one, let's do NFL. I don't know. But there's a set. And once I have my set created with all my codes and all my appropriate colors, then what I want to do is save that set. So now you'll see that in my highlighter tool, I built a new set and it added my different tags or my different labels. Now, for philosophy of education, I certainly don't want to use my DFS codes, so I have to import the appropriate library. If I go back into that highlighter library, now what you should see is that I have 3 sets: FYS, preclinical, and the one that I'm on right now, which is Brew Set. But if I want to go into preclinical, I can take a look at that. And I can save that. And now what it's done is loaded in this particular markup set. And I am using this very specifically because as I'm going through my philosophy of education that I wrote in EDU 150, I want to be seeing where do I have evidence that I understand the Ohio Standards for the Teaching Profession, and then highlight those words by those colors. A quick look at that. You can see that Standard 1 deals with student learning and development with respect to diversity. Standard 2 is that teachers understand their content area. So as I've built my highlight sets, you can see I've labeled them appropriately. If I see anything that deals with students, I'm going to use this purple tag. If it's content, we're looking for a green highlight. Assessment, so on and so forth. I also added this just generic red one because sometimes when I'm writing, I just like to go in and very quickly grab out the good stuff. So I have this generic keep the good stuff. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find some important things from this philosophy of education here, and I'm going to use the highlight tool to show you how to extract just those pieces. So this is a pretty decent philosophy of ed. It's a little long. You can tell it was written. Someone probably had a word limit or something that they had to do. But it says, as a future educator, I fall into the beliefs of perennialism in terms of that school should be a social institution used to develop a human's intellectual and social capabilities. I believe that the purpose of education is to teach students curriculum. However, I do believe that the ultimate goal as a teacher should be able to help students flourish as individuals. Now, when I read through that, I felt like that red section right here was probably the most important of those 2 or 3 sentences. So I'm going to highlight those and then use one of my tags. Now, it deals with students, but so I can use that and apply that, or I could use my generic keep the good stuff. So I'm going to happen to code that one purple. As I keep moving as an educator, I believe in the progressivism ideal that teachers should be a guide within students' learning, and that it is as much the teacher's responsibility to help the student learn as it is the student's responsibility to try to learn the information. Well, that seemed like good stuff too, so I'm going to capture that. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start going, instead of color coding this, I'm just going to go generic. I'm going to go keep the good stuff. I'm going to act like a critical theorist, ask hard questions. This is all really good stuff, so I'm going to highlight through that as well. Open relationships with the parents about how I'm teaching their students. Ooh, that's good as well. So I'm going to go through and grab all of these different highlights that I want. Again, you choose what codes you need to apply and what colors you want. For the purposes of this little demo, I'm going to go with red because I want to show you what you can do if you just grab the highlights with one color. I'm going to go through and get all of these. And then when I get to the bottom, seems like enough. Now what I can do is this thing down at the bottom right, extract highlights, either by sequence or by color. And this is where the power in this highlight tool lies. I'm going to click by color, and what it's going to do is it's going to go in there and extract all the highlights. And then I'm going to ask it to add those highlights to the end of the current document. If I wanted to, I could make a brand new document with just the highlights, or I could give a URL of another Google Doc that I already have built if I want to put them there. But I'm going in the current document right now, and I click extract. Takes a second, doesn't even give me a success message. There we go. Now it's done. I can click the X. And when I scroll down to the bottom, you can see that my code key is written here, and then it's extracted only the text that I've highlighted. Now, the reason that I stopped using the different colors is because I wanted to show you that the extracted text, if you use one code, will go in sequence. If you start extracting by colors and you want it to separate out for the colors, then you need to say extract codes by color, and then it'll pull those out, but you lose the sequence of the document. So there's some pluses and minuses to using multiple colors. It just depends on the job you want to do with this tool. But now all of a sudden, if I move this sentence up to the top, I have a much shorter and concise philosophy of education. I believe that the ultimate goal as a teacher should be to help students flourish as individuals. It's as much the teacher's responsibility to help the student learn as it is the student's responsibility to try to learn. I'll act as a critical theorist. I'll ask hard questions. I have open relationships with parents about how I'm teaching their students, etc., etc. So if you're looking to really quickly go back into a really wordy and long philosophy of education you wrote 3 or 4 years ago, grab this highlight tool, go ahead and mark it up and extract it, and then maybe copy and paste this information and start fresh. You're going to want to go in and tweak it. You're going to want to make sure that you add in references to all of those standards from the teaching profession, but it'll at least get you started and save you a little bit of time. Jazzy.